But welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the house barrage, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Be kind to the guys in this mess in the first place.
Put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to Hyperpolyglotting with Elise. That's not the stream that we're doing right now. Hello, fucking hell. It's been a long day. Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise, is what I intended to say. But I was so busy remembering the following that apparently it slipped my mind. Fun fact. A redhead is someone who owns all of communism's albums. Hello, Badger. Hello, Adria. Yes, that did answer I suppose that did answer your question. Oh, wow. So I was orienteering today, or attempting to, from which I bring you this land navigation pro tip. If you're interested in orienteering, I highly recommend it. It's fun. Yeah, you get to see a lot of very pretty forests and things, amongst other things. It doesn't hurt to actually spend a little bit before you actually go out into the woods studying the map with a magnifying glass or something. Because the thing about orienteering maps, and I don't fault them for this, because the idea, you need something compact for orienteering. You can't have a full ordnance survey map. As useful as that would be in some respects, it would be an absolute pain in the ass on a trail. But sometimes the features are really, really, really compressed. Sometimes you will have like a millimeter of space, you'll have features that are practically on top of each other on the map, even though they're a fairly significant walk between them, and there's no line of sight. And this is why I say I was attempting to do orienteering, because I got through 5 controls pretty well, actually. And then everything just went completely south, which is funny because actually we just kept on going northwest. And ultimately this ended up with having to trek through a fucking riverbed for what felt like half a mile, but probably almost certainly wasn't, and then getting caught in an extremely sharp and painful bramble patch trying to get out of the woods and onto a marked trail, because we had gotten to the point where the orienteering people were going to be packing up for the day and we didn't want to keep them waiting. So a magnifying glass and actually studying the map in advance, highly recommended, because looking at it afterwards I realized we probably could have finished the course just fine if we had followed the stream that you can barely see on the map without a magnifying glass, rather than taking a trail that looked like the easy way, except for the part where it didn't actually go where we needed to go. So yeah, I mean, it was fun though. It was a beautiful forest. It was great. A great walk. I got all sorts of really arresting lacerations from the bramble patches. There were several. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, orienteering is what you do is it's actually a competitive sport in a lot of places. It's not as big here, but in like continental Europe, it's really big. You get this map, and there are these like electronic controls, checkpoints that are marked on the map, and the idea is that you figure out how to get from one to the next as quickly as possible, and then get back to the finish, and your time is recorded. And sometimes there's urban orienteering, sometimes there's and sometimes it's in a forest. In one case recently, for me, it was in a corn maze. That was actually ridiculously hard. Because the map was exactly the opposite of every maze that I've ever actually looked at on paper. Because the white bit was actually the walls, and the printed bit was actually the paths between the walls. But yeah, exactly. Shooting azimuths. I mean, you don't need a huge amount of precision or the sort of thing you do in orienteering for the most part. But yeah, exactly. Compass, map, all that stuff. It's a lot of fun, actually. And then there are bramble patches. The weather was very nice, and I was just absolutely exhausted when we got back. I mean, I had time. I could have probably, gotten back in time to stream, but I was just so wrecked after that I was practically falling asleep. But yeah, so that was my day, and again, I highly recommend it. It's actually a lot of fun. But, okay. So, you see just amazing landscapes. I mean, we've gone to all sorts of parks I didn't know existed. And there's a lot of woods in Ohio, it turns out. Lots of very nice woods. So, we had started... we have it. Okay. I think we want to continue on. Muy buena. ¿Cómo estáis? Bueno, acabo de explicarlo. Porque estaba, perdiéndome en el bosque. Deportivamente. Okay, so we started to watch this yesterday, and I think it's worth actually going back to. Twat Mulch is freaking out over Mamdani, and he says Zoran Mamdani is gaining power and no one's paying attention. And I'm not sure what part of that video title is more buck wild. The idea that this guy who isn't even actually the mayor yet, he's just the mayor-elect, is gaining power. Or the bit that no one's paying attention, like the entire right-wing media sphere and much of just the regular, like vanilla bourgeois media sphere isn't freaking out over it. Igualmente. So I think we're going to start out with this one. And then our good buddy Ben Shapiro, who's been having a nice big crash out.
Fateh is elected in their elections, that the country's over in that case, because that is probably going to happen. We still have a chance as a country, but if we just submit finally to...
I can't even make out what that is behind him, except that it seems to be really blurry footage of a brown person who looks excited about something.
This invasion, then the country is over. You could fill a very large museum with exhibits about empires that collapsed because as barbarians gathered outside the gates, their leaders were distracted by relatively unimportant internal conflicts.
This is just so cute. Yeah. Well, yes. Well, no. This is sort of a non-lumberjack, but it's way better than the last, the Ted Kaczynski outfit that he was in yesterday, when he was getting really surprised that people think it's that nobody gives a fuck that Charlie Kirk bought it. And if you missed it yesterday, you didn't, I think, but anyone in chat who did, we also looked at the ghouls over at the Bulwark, who often like to talk about how worried they are about authoritarianism glazing Dick Cheney, and I have to say, that is a neat way to sort of straddle a dichotomy, because you can either claim to consider authoritarianism a bad thing, or you can consider Dick Cheney's legacy a good thing. Because Dick Cheney's the authoritarianism guy. Like, all the authoritarianism we've got right now in the U.S., practically all of it, comes from his fucking administration. But I digress. Here we go. So, Twat Mulch is gonna give us some ancient history.
And certainly you could set up rows and rows of bookshelves at the Louvre with volume after volume going into detail about how various civilizations, from the Byzantines to the...
Yeah, is that what the Louvre is for? I've never heard... he seems to think it's a history museum.
Ottomans to the Canadians met their demise because they were unable or unwilling to address the very real, looming threats they were facing from the outside. And then, of course, once you meticulously assembled all these books documenting these historical examples and placed them...
Like, does he not know what kind of museum the Louvre is, Mr. Western Civilization?
In the Louvre. Those books would probably be stolen by a handful of burglars armed with power tools. So put another way...
I'm still kind of salty at him, because I was going to make that fucking joke, and then he made it. And he does not get to make the funny joke.
It's the highest luxury for wealthy and prosperous civilizations to fight amongst themselves, right up until the moment they realize that in reality, the barbarians aren't simply at the gates anymore.
This is him talking about the fact... that the idea is that you put a bunch of bookshelves in the Louvre, the big library, I guess he thinks it is, about bad reactionary takes on why empires fall. And then somebody will nick them. Except that, it would probably all just be fucking Niall Ferguson, and nobody will steal that. You can't even give that shit to charity shops.
They've made their way inside. And no one's even noticed. And by that point, it's too late. The foreign conquest is plain for everyone to see.
Like, since when do you have a problem with the foreign conquest, Matt Walsh? You are the foreign conquest.
Right at the moment when you can't do anything about it. So, if you don't see where I'm going with this, then that's probably a good sign.
Well, I'm guessing it's going someplace very racist. Hey, Riveroon.
Being honest. There's no reason to recap any of the infighting that's occurring right now among the...
Well, because apparently Mark Carney is the demise of Canada. Because in their world, and I'm serious, I have seen... the Canadian right-wing press is actually full of this stuff, too. Mark Carney is an Islamic communist. And I want to live in their Canada. Seriously, just, every single, even just boring, crappy neoliberal politician sounds so much better when they describe them. You could think that Macron is a communist, and, Mark Carney, Mark Carney in Canada... they're all communists. It's all communism. It's all communists. You got your neoliberal communists. You got your, vaguely social democratic communists. It's just all... He thinks everything is communism, apparently.
Conservative movement.
And it's all Islamic, somehow.
And if you're not aware of the extraordinary degree of internal squabbling on the right, which I suspect that most average conservatives probably aren't.
Well... considering that most right-wingers, the only reason they're able to sort of maintain that ideological worldview is that all they consume, is like Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin and Laura Loomer and Joe Rogan and the rest of them. How would they not have noticed it? Because it's literally all of them. It's a battle of all against all right now. Well, the Canadian right wing and the U.S. right wing are kind of the same people. It's kind of the same money. I mean, Canada is technically its own country, but economically it is so completely, like, the U.S. is so far up Canada's ass that you really could not tell the difference. So, like, Canadian right-wingers are just doing the same shtick, except about politicians people in the U.S. mostly haven't heard of. And scaremongering about the LDP and all sorts of other things like that.
Well, that's a point in your favor anyway. It's an indication that you don't spend much of your time online paying attention to the endless bickering on social media. But suffice it to say, many conservatives are at each other's throats at the moment. They're certainly at my throat from every angle.
Well, I mean, that's because you suck.
Really explain what it is I've done or said that they find so objectionable. I also haven't changed my goal, which is advancing the interests of this country and of the Americans who live here.
At least the ones who suck.
That's all I've ever tried to do or ever really talked about.
Oh God, is this his Allende speech?
But here's the important thing. No matter where you stand on these attacks and all this drama...
Let's not forget. Yeah, he's about to... that's what he's going to do. He's going to be like, now more than ever, we need to remember the true spirit of racism.
Even aware of it really doesn't matter. What matters is that while conservatives are busy ripping each other to shreds, an Islamic socialist from Uganda is about to take over the biggest city in the country.
Take over? I mean, he got elected mayor. That's kind of how that works.
At the same time, as if that's not enough, a far-left Somali scam artist is about to take over one of the biggest cities in America's heartland. Minneapolis. And this is the kind of threat that a serious country and a serious political movement would prioritize.
I mean, again... It is just wild to act like nobody's talking about this on the right when it's practically all they're talking about other than just how much they hate each other right now. I mean, that's the thing. They're dividing their time right now between the fact that they hate each other and they suck and the fact that they want to be really racist about mayoral elections.
Above any other.
Because they were being racist about other stuff and then there were mayoral, that's a hard word to say when you're tired. Elections to be racist about.
Foreigners who want to destroy the U.S. are able to seize control of our largest cities.
Seize control. Like, he got elected. He won 2 elections by a fucking landslide. I don't think that necessarily qualifies as him seizing control. And this guy isn't even in office yet.
Then nothing else matters. Okay? Whatever it is that you're worried about doesn't matter. Foreign policy.
You know those cities that you're scared to go into? Now there are mayors who you'd be scared to be, that are the reason you're scared to be in there.
Doesn't matter. Podcasts, even the most offensive and racist podcasts you can think of.
And I hope you remember it's mine.
Don't matter. The Constitution doesn't matter. The Heritage Foundation doesn't matter.
I mean, yeah, fuck the Heritage Foundation, I suppose.
Nothing matters at all.
I mean, apparently Nick Fuentes, speaking of the Heritage Foundation, was talking about how they're becoming apparently more open to just hanging out with neo-Nazis like him, as opposed to being a little bit coy about it in the past, I suppose.
In that scenario, because we will have ceased to exist as a country.
If people he doesn't like can get elected to be mayor of cities he doesn't live in, the U.S. will cease to exist.
Okay, once we become Somalia or Uganda,
Yeah, there's already one of those. How's that going to work?
we've lost everything. And we can never get it back. Now, no one needs me to outline the case against Omar Fateh, who's
Well, I mean, it would be nice if you tried.
probably going to be the next mayor of Minneapolis. No one needs me to outline the case against Zoran Mamdani, who's
Well, I mean, then what's the fucking video for? There's a 21-minute video specifically about how Zoran Mamdani is gaining power, and you're not going to outline the case against Zoran Mamdani?
probably going to be the next mayor of New York.
Having been elected, I mean, that's usually how that works.
Or does anyone, at least in this audience, need me to make the case against mass migration more broadly or
Yeah, I mean, again, just sort of, he's taken the racism as read.
Somali immigration in particular, or anything?
Wait, Somali, he has a specific thing against Somalis? I don't really pay much attention to this dickhead. I did not realize that he had a specific, that he was that, like, kind of a niche racist. Like, the only place I've ever heard of specific racism against Somalis in particular is Finland. So he's like, this is like sort of the white supremacist Linux, I guess.
Like that. We've beaten that drum many, many times before, and we'll continue to beat it.
So what the fuck are you going to talk about for the next 18 minutes?
Really, especially if you live in places like New York or Minneapolis or any of the thousands
Which, of course, you
American
don't.
suburbs that have become unrecognizable in the past 20 years, you don't really need to watch any monologue about it.
Okay, so this is not going to be about his case against Mamdani or Fateh, who I actually hadn't heard of. It's not going to be him just doing sort of general purpose racism about immigrants. So what is it going to be about? Because it's actually not a short video.
Listen to any podcast about it. You've already seen firsthand exactly what the problem is.
You know, when you go and see cities, like on Fox News and in videos by fucking Tyler Oliveira.
And how it's about to get much, much worse. Unless we actually take some meaningful action. Because again, if we don't...
What's the meaningful action? Is he going to tell us what the meaningful... I mean, it is so cute because these people will just talk about the trans violence like it's an actual thing that exists, even though it's actually just a thing that they made up. Because trans people talk about maybe needing to defend themselves against the sort of genocidal shit done by guys like him. And that's the trans violence. But he's just gonna say, yeah, somebody needs to stop Zoran Mamdani and, Fateh becoming mayor by the usual means, was it? And that's not anything.
Saying
that, that's not the violence.
That if Zoran Mamdani is elected and Fateh is elected,
Wait, he made this before they were elected? He's gaining power, and he wasn't even elected yet? Like, what does that even mean? How is he gaining power? Did he eat one of those special mushrooms that you get that gives you an extra life or something?
There are elections that the country's over in that case.
Did he get an invincibility star? How is he gaining power if apparently when this was made he hadn't even been elected yet?
Like, that is probably going to happen, and we still have a chance as a country. But if we just submit finally to this invasion, then the country is over.
An invasion of people who already live here, apparently.
Just done. We don't have a country anymore.
Well, I mean, I like the idea of people like Matt Walsh not having a country anymore. I don't think they should have a country. I don't think that there should be countries that cater to his bullshit.
If the country comes to reflect the vision of somebody like Zoran Mamdani, then that's the end of the country.
Wow, free public transportation will be the end of us.
Because that's what he wants. That's his vision.
Wow. I didn't know that free public transportation was all we needed to do. Like, to end Matt Walsh. I had no idea that, like, transportation was his kryptonite.
Now, the good news, although it's easy to forget it, is that meaningful action is indeed possible. The Republican Party currently has control of both houses of Congress in addition to the White House. In case you forgot, conservatives have the power to prevent any more American cities from being taken over by foreign communists.
Taken over by foreign... These are both U.S. citizens, remember. They're only foreign because they're brown.
So in the interest of being constructive, instead of, simply identifying the problem that we've all identified...
I mean, this just reminds me of how, just, like, recently, Kash Patel just published... I think all he did was publish, like, greetings for Diwali, and then he got all shocked that the sort of people who are into Kash Patel and into Donald Trump filled his comments with anti-Asian hate. And he's like, wait, I didn't know that all you, like, Nazi fuckers were racist. And it's like, where the fuck were you?
Or those of us who are sane and have common sense have identified. I just wanted to outline a few proposals, right, which the Republican Congress could and should pass into law immediately. So here are some actual practical solutions that we could talk about.
Yeah, okay, the solution to people in New York City electing people they actually like. I'm sure the Democrats would love to hear it too, because it's kind of a bit embarrassing to them that the entire Democratic leadership basically, I mean, they backed a serial sex pest who nobody liked, and nobody cared because there was somebody who actually looked decent and people voted for him. I'm sure they'd love to hear this too. So what can you do to prevent people voting for people that they like?
And not just talk about, but that could be pursued. We have the power right now to do it. But before I do so, I need to preempt the objections that are going to sound something like this. People will say, well, the courts might strike that down.
Like, who seriously believes that at this point? The courts are completely in their fucking pockets.
Well, the Democrats...
Like, the Sixth Circuit, I just read this before going on stream, recently decided that it's legal to bully trans students in schools, but that it's... and because of a concept that they made up called biological pronouns.
The filibuster. Yeah, it's true that courts might strike down these proposals, just like they've struck down every single policy the Trump administration has attempted to implement.
I mean, they haven't, actually. And the administration has largely disregarded that shit and gotten off fairly easy.
And yeah, Democrats might filibuster the legislation, but...
No, that seems unlikely. Let's be honest.
Doesn't mean that we're out of options. We can eliminate the filibuster. We can appeal rulings.
I mean, what's cute about that is if they eliminate... It would be so hilarious if they were the ones to finally eliminate the filibuster and thus eliminate one of the key excuses Democrats use for why they can't pass the laws that their voters actually need them to pass. Like, the people who rely on the threat of the filibuster most are his fucking people. If they fucking get rid of it, go ahead, get rid of it.
By lower court judges, and if necessary, we can ignore them if it comes down to it. But I don't think that will be necessary, though, because the proposals I'm about to outline are indeed both constitutional and obviously necessary. And
I mean, he just said... Yeah, remember just a few minutes ago he said we shouldn't give a shit about the Constitution, but now he assures us whatever he says is constitutional, by which he means that the assholes in the Supreme Court at the moment will probably let it through, because they kind of let through all sorts of right-wing bullshit, with the possible exception of the tariffs, because apparently they've decided that somebody's got to be the executive committee that oversees the interests of the bourgeoisie, since the current administration is, I mean, it just sort of chucking toys out of the pram.
Proposal. By way of background, Take a look at these recent appearances by Omar Fateh, the scam artist running for mayor of Minneapolis, who's become known as...
I mean, since when did these guys have a problem with scam artists?
Mamdani of the Midwest. Watch.
I'm not saying this guy is one. I know nothing about him. I just find it funny that these grifters are going to call somebody a scam artist.
Have a better communication between the mayor and the chief, and also the city council members, so that whenever we know something's coming down the pike, that city council is alerted immediately, because they're the connection point to community, and they can articulate that and disseminate that information to folks. I think that's really important.
Well, I mean, okay, so what exactly... What do they... It seems like he cut off the bit where he explains what he's even talking about. But so far, all this is like the council making sure that people hear about stuff that happens. This is where that's terrifying. I hate it when the council notifies people of stuff that happens. Oh wow! So he said a Muslim greeting. That's terrifying. You know, I mean, like Matt Walsh would have shot his flannels hearing that.
Somalia, Hiran State, Ma'awisle. Early voting was hadda illa November 4. I need your vote. I need you.
Oh well, that's terrifying. He spoke to a community in the language that community speaks. Republicans would never do that. Like, I mean, they would never, like, speak to the general sort of racist community in the language of racism, for example. What we're supposed to... Okay, so that's what he's...
So he's waving the Somali flag, he's speaking...
Standing in front of a much bigger U.S. flag, remember?
In a foreign language.
Well, foreign to Matt Walsh.
Pledging fealty to Somalia.
No, he wasn't.
He's talking about tipping off illegals in advance of ICE raids.
Is that what he was talking about? Well, if that's what he was talking about, first of all, based, that would be good. Second of all, why didn't you include that in the clip?
Clearly understands that his constituency is Somalis like himself, not Americans, and he's not ashamed of any of them.
I mean, he is obviously a U.S. citizen, otherwise he would not be eligible to be mayor.
This because, as we've discussed before, Somalis are now a dominant voting bloc in Minneapolis, which is home to the largest Somali population in the entire country. The solution, or one of them, one thing that we could do is ban politicians and candidates from holding rallies or creating advertisements in any language but English.
I mean, I don't think you actually could, and nobody with any self-respect will comply with it.
American voters should always know what their leaders are saying.
But since when? Since when do you believe in transparency, Twat Mulch? Like,
this is basic. Ask, any voter who can't speak English, any voter who needs a candidate or a politician to speak in another language, shouldn't be a voter.
Really? Why? I mean, he's doing a Jim Crow. That's what this is.
Should not
literacy
in the
test.
First place. Now, right away, I can imagine the replies. That violates the First Amendment.
I mean, yes, it does.
Well, actually, it doesn't.
I mean, it literally does, though. Because you're talking about imposing a law that abridges the freedom of speech. The Supreme Court's been over this one, actually. When it was German, a language that I have a feeling you're probably way more comfortable with, Matt Walsh.
It's not a restriction on the content of anyone's speech.
Yes, it is, actually.
Politicians can have whatever ideas they want. It's a restriction on how that speech is delivered. And
yes, it's specifically the words that are used, Matt Walsh.
We have many restrictions like that. That's why politicians can't campaign within 50 feet of a polling place. That's why.
That's not the same, okay, so he's saying that a law that regulates what you can say is the same thing as a law that regulates where you can say it. This is, I mean, I'm glad we're getting some constitutional law according to Matt Walsh. The flannel speaks.
Politicians can't blast their campaign advertisements at 2 a.m. with a bullhorn outside of your house.
Yes, but again, that time, place, and manner is not the same thing as content. Like, this is kind of basic.
There's a lot of different ways that they cannot convey their
But I mean, obviously the thing is that it would absolutely be essential to simply disregard this sort of thing if they even tried it. That is the only way. We have to actually look at this in reality, not in some sort of alternative reality where the courts will actually give a shit about the fact that there's a lot of precedent saying that what he's saying is totally unconstitutional. The only thing for it is to ensure that ungovernability ensues in response to these things and that enforcing them becomes a real fucker. Because otherwise, it's just going to be normalized. That's like the only thing. And like with this with all sorts of other bullshit.
So the principle is pretty clear. Speech becomes unlawful when and only when the government has a clear and unambiguous need to regulate that speech.
Yeah, that's not actually the rule. In fact, the examples that he gave are specifically about time, place, and manner.
In order for the country and its government to remain functional. And
so the government, what, like, is Somali an operating system the government cannot handle? Will the government stop functioning if a politician speaks fucking Somali? Is that how that's going to work?
In the context of laws that require candidates to speak English, there's precedent to back this up. Consider the case of Alejandrina Cabrera, which you probably haven't heard of this, but a little over a decade ago, she ran for city council in Arizona. But there was a problem with her candidacy. The law in Arizona requires that elected officials have the capacity to speak decent English. This is from Time magazine. Quote, the Arizona Supreme Court ruled last week that Cabrera did not meet the state's requirement that elected officials must be proficient in English. Cabrera.
Okay, so that's the state Supreme Court, and that's not the same thing. There's a difference. Okay, actually, I mean, leaving aside that this is a very shitty ruling, in a place where Spanish has been spoken for centuries before a single word of English was uttered there, but leaving that aside, this is not the same thing. It is different to say somebody must have the ability to function in English and to say that they are not allowed to give a speech in a language other than English. Like,
his candidacy became an issue when the mayor, a political rival of hers, filed a lawsuit claiming that her lack of English proficiency made her ineligible. Cabrera, an American citizen who spent some of her childhood in Mexico, knows some English. When she was questioned at trial, she was able to state her name and place of birth, but she could not answer a question about which high school she attended.
I mean, allegedly, according to this article.
Country Cabrera would not have a problem. Candidates do not have to prove that.
I mean, this is literally just a Jim Crow literacy test here.
They know English, but Arizona enacted a law in 2006 that bars people who do not speak, write, and read English.
But this is literally not the same thing as what he's talking about. Oh, well, because I think he knows perfectly well how to pronounce her name because it's not hard. It's just that guys like him like to do this thing where they pretend not to be able to pronounce a name that they want to be racist about so that they can act like it's difficult.
State or local offices. Now, here's more coverage from the New York Times. Quote, when Cabrera...
Alejandrina Cabrera. I mean...
speaks English, her face takes on an expression somewhere between deep discomfort and outright despair. Her tongue, which darts around in her mouth in her native Spanish, slows to a crawl.
Well, this is just... Who cares? I mean, apart from everything else, this is just literally not the thing that he's talking about. I mean, that is fucked up, though. that they would bar somebody.
Their Black Friday survival special.
Okay, but we're skipping ahead. Let's see what else he's going to talk about.
And again, the principle is the same. If you can't speak English...
Well, I mean, we've seen that both of these guys can speak English just fine. That's not the issue. It is that they also spoke other things.
And you shouldn't be voting. You're not really an American. You're not...
Really? Why?
Not capable of interacting with other Americans.
Yes, you can. Like, because there are lots of people in the U.S. who speak other languages, and, like, Spanish in particular. Like, about a third of the population is native Spanish speakers, Matt. Like, you can't interact with them.
Country. You haven't made the slightest effort to assimilate.
Well, look, motherfucker, you're speaking English. That doesn't seem like assimilation in a country that, for thousands of years, nobody spoke English in.
To our country.
Shouldn't you be speaking Ojibwa? I have no idea where he's located.
And if you're allowed to vote, what does that mean?
It means that this country rightly does not have a fucking official language, and Matt Walsh can fuck off.
Your own country's interests, not Americans. And for that reason, there is a clear and compelling government interest in preventing you from voting. Just like we prevent felons from voting.
So having English not be your native language is the same thing. I mean, the analogy kind of works when you consider that felon disenfranchisement was mostly a way to just disenfranchise black people by, first, you convict them on all sorts of bullshit crimes through Jim Crow and all sorts of other stuff, and then you disenfranchise them for life because you convicted them on some bullshit you made up. But, yeah, like, that's the analogy you can draw, but the idea that having committed an offense is the same thing as not speaking English as well as fucking a guy who, like, breaks out into a performative sweat over the existence of pronouns would like you to. I mean, that's an interesting statement.
Yes, in this country, it's entirely possible for an American citizen to lose his right to vote by becoming a felon.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of fucked up. And, I mean, doesn't he have any sensitivity towards his great leader, Donald, who, I mean, he does have those 53 felony convictions, but being a rich, powerful fucker, they did not actually proceed to sentencing. But he is, like, but I also don't know, has he actually bothered to do anything to challenge those convictions? Because they may just, by the time he gets around to it, they may actually be final and unappealable.
And many states have laws like that on the books. But
yeah, interestingly, the same states that had Jim Crow laws.
Ask yourself this question. Who's more dangerous in the voting booth? A Somali communist who can't speak a word of English?
He speaks English. You showed him speaking English.
Who wants to drain every dollar from the U.S. Treasury and send it back to Somalia? Or a guy who hasn't paid his taxes in 5 years? Who's more dangerous in the voting booth? A Muslim socialist from Uganda who can't speak English?
Wait, okay, so Mamdani can't speak English? Really?
And who wants to dismantle the police force? Or
I mean, that sounds based, actually. I mean, you've sold me.
Guy who committed insurance fraud 5 years ago.
I mean, I'm kind of pro-insurance fraud, too, to be honest. Fuck insurance companies, for the most part.
Then we should ban foreign language speakers from voting, too.
Wow. Why not just...
If they can't speak English. If they're not proficient in English.
Like, why not? Why?
We should also require all politicians and candidates to renounce any dual citizenships they may hold. And publicly pledge their total and absolute loyalty to the U.S.
They already have to do that bit. Like, they have to swear oaths and stuff.
To the absolute exclusion of all other nations.
I mean, that's literally the oath. Like, the ridiculous thing about this is that Mamdani, I don't know anything about Fateh at all, But Mamdani's a naturalized citizen. And the oath that you have to swear when you become a naturalized citizen in the U.S. does exactly what he just said. Very, very explicitly. That's literally the oath of citizenship you have to take, which you only have to take if you're a naturalized citizen. Like, literally, people who are born here, people who are born to U.S. citizen parents, never have to swear that shit. So, literally, Mamdani has actually met this requirement that Walsh himself has never had to meet.
Now, from a First Amendment standpoint, this should not be controversial either.
Oh, well, I mean, because we're just kind of making this shit up as we go along anyway.
As to the latter part, we already make elected officials take an oath of office.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, the thing that you're talking about already happened. You're not proposing a new thing there.
Of course. Many public servants in various fields have the same obligation. That's because the Constitution explicitly states that office holders shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. So all I'm proposing is that we move the oath forward a bit to the candidate stage.
Well, why? Because if they're getting elected, if they have to do it when they're getting elected, why? Like, what's the point of that even?
Like, you should not be able to run for office in this country.
No, es que lo entiende perfectamente. Lo que pasa es que Matt Walsh es racista. Y esos otros sectores del público a que hay que llegar. Él no quiere que existan esos sectores. Los quiere muertos.
Unless you're willing to swear total, absolute fealty to this country, to the exclusion of every other country.
Like, okay, again, an oath that Mamdani already swore well before he ever became a candidate of anything, and that Matt Walsh never has.
And if you're not willing to do that, then you should not be allowed to run for office. Dual citizens are already subjected to dramatically increased scrutiny when they're trying to obtain, say, a top secret security clearance. So there's no reason that we shouldn't impose even more scrutiny when a dual citizen tries to run for office, given the obvious conflict of interest that's involved. Again, there is precedent. We don't even need to make an argument. We just need to pass it.
I mean, that's really convenient for Matt because he hasn't actually made an argument for any of this stuff. But okay, so we've seen that. I want to move on now. Because Ben Shapiro has been having a very normal couple of days. New York voters walk off cliff.
Alrighty, folks, today is Election Day in New York City. Will Mamdani do it? Will New Yorkers do it? Will you? By the way, I'll be on CNN's live.
I mean, I would imagine quite a few of them do it fairly regularly, unlike Ben Shapiro.
Stream tonight, talking about it as it all unfolds with Isabel Brown. Okay, this is why when you put Zohran Mamdani in debate, he completely falls apart. I mean,
but he didn't, though.
He's the kind of guy who eats a burrito with a fork and a knife, but eats rice with his hands, supposedly. Now, I don't know which one of those you believe. Do you think that Zohran Mamdani, like in his normal life, eats rice with his hands?
I mean, what do you mean with his hands? If you're talking about eating rice the kind of conventional South Asian way, you mean like putting it in some naan and then picking the naan up with your hands? Like, also, who gives a shit?
Okay, I don't have to pretend that I think all cultural hallmarks are equivalently clean.
Wow. I am shocked to hear that Ben Shapiro does not think all cultures are equal.
I don't think eating rice with your hands is a good policy. Okay, if your culture eats rice with your hands, I suppose you can. It's gross to me.
Well, I mean, if it's gross to Ben Shapiro, he won't come over for dinner. So I think that means, just to be on the safe side, I'm gonna start eating rice with my hands. Like, that isn't how that works, actually.
There's no way about it. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I
oh, wow, yeah, he's terribly sorry. He's truly apologetic about this.
Think that all things that all cultures do are equally anti-germ. But I also don't believe he
Since when is he anti-germ, though?
does this. I don't think Zoran Mamdani is sitting at home with his wife and there's a pot of rice and he just takes his hand and he scoops it in and just starts shoving it in his face. I don't think that... This is a dude who eats a burrito with a fork and a knife. Give me a break.
Well, I mean, yeah, but of course they do know. I mean, I'm willing to assume, for example, that they, well, they aren't poor white South Africans. We're talking about very rich white South Africans. What you have to know about, like, white South Africans is that virtually all, I mean, that is a very small minority, and they own virtually all the best land. There has been basically no change in the demographics of land ownership in South Africa, for the most part, since apartheid. Like, they still own all the fucking shit that they stole when they invaded in the first place.
He literally takes a dish that is wrapped in a wrap so that you can use your hands, and he eats that with a fork and a knife. But when it comes to rice, which is mush, advocate for you throughout that process. They lay out all your options clearly, clean. Here, for example, is old Zoran Mamdani a few years ago, telling a story about 9/11 and Islamophobia.
I think of on 9/11 when my teacher pulled me out of class rather, a classmate of mine and myself, and told us that we may get bullied because of what had just happened. And we didn't understand what had happened, and in fact we were very lucky to have a teacher as kind and caring as that, because most Muslim students did not have that. And yet, what I really remember from that interaction was the understanding that now I was distinct. There was something about me that was different from my classmates. And it's a lesson that I was made to learn again and again, because a few years later when I returned to New York City after a trip with my family abroad, I was taken aside at JFK and put in a double-mirrored room with immigration agents and asked, if I had just come from attending a terrorist training camp.
Which, of course, I mean, everyone would say yes. Especially the people who had actually done that. That is a great question to be asking people.
And if I had intentions on attacking this country, and what my thoughts were on the government. And I was 15 years old, and I was terrified.
The real victim of 9/11 was Zoran Mamdani, but don't worry. He's changed, because a few years passed, and he grew up, and he realized that the real victims of 9/11, the real victims, the people who really were people like his aunt, who somebody supposedly gave a weird eye to on the subway at one time.
Wow. Okay. So, if you point out that there is racism, there was and still is a whole lot of anti-Muslim racism since 9/11, based on blaming all Muslims and anyone who's suspected of being that means you're saying that they're all the real like, wow, this is impressive.
I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City.
So much emotion. It's not fake at all. So much emotion.
I want to speak to the...
I mean, these guys tell on themselves so much when they assume that nobody is ever just legitimately emotional about anything. Because they literally they're incapable of imagining the idea that somebody might ever be sincere about anything, because they're never fucking sincere.
Memory of my aunt.
She's not his aunt. Wow, he has to stop.
Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
Wow. I mean, the emotions. Could you feel it? It's like at the end of Terms of Endearment right there.
Like, has he watched a movie from this century before?
My goodness. I haven't seen that sort of acting since I don't even know when. Like Chris Farley and Tommy.
Motherfucker, you script this thing. You could go back and post if you actually came up with something good.
Or something. I mean, that's some acting right there. By the way, it wasn't his aunt. It was his father's cousin, which, as we all know, is what you call your aunt.
Yeah, well, yes, actually. I can't believe they're still doing this shit. They're actually still doing... Yes. What is he going to do? By the way, this Uncle Roger person, I have it on very good authority that Gordon Ramsay is not actually his biological nephew. Yeah, you know that? He's not really his nephew. And I don't think... I mean, like...
Also, his aunt, his actual aunt, lived in Tanzania at the time and didn't wear a hijab. His unspecified father's cousin, we don't know anything about her.
Well, you just actually gave a lot of specifications, so it sounds like you know a fair bit. Because right-wingers have been pretending this is a gotcha to discover that, like, Asians refer to a whole number of people. Like not just, and not even just distant relatives, but, like, just older people that they know as aunt or uncle. And they're all shocked about this. And you wonder why this bullshit does not land in New York.
Even her name. So basically she might live in Canada like his girlfriend or something.
I was at the press conference yesterday. They said, can you tell us who your aunt is, who you were referring to? I said, yes, this is my aunt. This is my Zara Fui. This is my father's cousin. And this was her story.
So how can you convince New Yorkers if that is the type of person that you are? In other words, that you don't tell the truth?
Well, it's...
Wait, what?
It's not a lie. My father's cousin is my aunt. That's how I referred to her growing up my whole life, Zara Fui.
I mean, it is technically a lie. I mean, like, a little bit.
No, it really isn't, though. But, I mean, it's... When are we gonna get... I thought New Yorkers were gonna be walking off a cliff in this video. And all we're getting is him, like, still pretending to play gotcha with the fact that some people use the term aunt more broadly than others.
But, don't worry, he's totally honest. And he's honest that he shifted about radical Islam also. I mean, like, old Zoran Mamdani, for example, rapped about the Holy Land Five. Those would be people who went to jail.
Oh, well, yeah, that would be people who went to jail on bullshit charges because they were operating Muslim charities, some of which donated to Palestinians. And that was enough to get them locked up. And a lot of this, some of those convictions actually got reversed because they were so ridiculous. This, incidentally, is another one of the totally not authoritarian bits of the Dick Cheney-George Bush legacy.
Failed because they were fronting for a terrorist group. The Holy Land Foundation was a front group for Hamas.
No, I mean, no, they weren't. They never were that. That wasn't even the argument, because it was just obviously bullshit. The argument was that since they raised money for Gaza, and since the elected government of Gaza, the elected government of the entire occupied Palestinian territory was Hamas, but they were only allowed to actually take office in Gaza, that therefore some of that money might have passed into the hands of officials who were members of Hamas, and that therefore they were materially supporting terrorism. And, I mean, it basically made it impossible. Like, Islamic charity became basically impossible after all this because of all the fucking witch hunts. Thank you for reminding people who probably had... I mean, I think it's actually... It's kind of nice when these chuds will go and remind people of atrocities from 20 years that many of them aren't old enough to remember. And then you look it up and it's like, wow, Jesus, George W. Bush and Dick Cheney were horrible fucking people.
A fundraising group for Hamas. And here is old Zoran Mamdani. You know, back in his rapping days, when he wasn't wearing a shirt, but was wearing an apron in a food truck. But, again, I don't know what it is about Zoran Mamdani and his food habits. Guys, like, please, if you're going to be, like, cooking at a food truck, please wear a shirt. It's gross.
I mean, it sounds like he was actually rapping. That's what you just said. Maybe he does when he actually cooks.
And also, eat rice with, like, a fork or a spoon. Like, please. That's all I ask of you. But here he was, back in his rapping days, rapping about the Holy Land Five.
Yeah. And the reason that he says you better look them up is that if you look them up, yeah, they got completely and utterly railroaded. It was an absolute just fucking witch trial. And anyone who spends just a few minutes just looking at even the basic facts of the case knows this. So it is really a choice to try to scaremonger over this.
It's also very bad rap.
Wow, Ben Shapiro, rap connoisseur.
But also, old Zohar Mamdani was the kind of person who screamed about genocide while wearing keffiyeh.
Wow. He would talk about genocide at the same time as wearing an item of cultural clothing that is associated with people who are being targeted for a genocide that Ben Shapiro likes.
When I say old Zohar Mamdani, I mean, like, not all that old. I mean...
Well, yeah, in fact, this entire bit is a bit weird because you're not talking about... you're not talking about things that are at all old. I mean, there's no evidence that he's actually changes, but they're not... Because why would you change them? They're good positions.
Like, you know, a couple of years ago. Because here's the thing about Zohar Mamdani, he's very, very young. So we're not talking about 20 years ago he did a bad thing. We're talking about...
Hey, I mean, you haven't given an example of a bad thing yet.
5 minutes ago he did a bad thing, and now he's trying...
What's the bad thing? Like, is this like multiple choice? Do we have to guess which one of those things he considers a bad thing?
To claim that he's moderated in some way. I don't believe you, sir.
It's been 4 months of protesting a genocide. It has become harder and harder to wake up every morning and see more and more Palestinians massacred with our tax dollars.
Yeah, I mean, so, okay, is that the bad thing?
Okay, and if that wasn't enough for you?
I mean, it wasn't. I think we need to do way more than that. But, I mean, not bad as a start, I suppose.
He also defended the Columbia University so-called protesters.
Oh, okay, so he actually stands for free speech. Something that, like, Ben Shapiro used to pretend to stand for. And a lot of liberals think it's a great gotcha to be like, oh, wow, they said they were for free speech, but it turns out they're actually kind of cool with violating other people's free speech. And it's like, yeah... That's not a gotcha. That's literally their brand. They're for free speech for Nazis and not for anyone who isn't Nazis.
Any of whom are trespassing or committing acts of violence.
I think these students have actually forced many of us to reckon with what's happening there, because for too many Americans, this has been something that is actually getting out of view. An example is that when students renamed the hall in Columbia from Hamilton Hall to Hind Hall, they were honoring a 6-year-old Palestinian girl who was killed in her car.
And we now know the name of the CO of the unit that was responsible for murdering her.
Watching as her parents had been killed by the Israeli military prior. And for so many Americans, that was a name that they hadn't heard until these students made it one.
This heroic man. Wow, but he's changed. That's when he was a state...
Wait, I mean, okay, so when are we going to get to the bad stuff?
Representative, you know, he's like old Zohar Mamdani would say that, for example, the New York City Police Department is basically the IDF, that they're the same.
Well, no, that's not what he said. Actually, what he just pointed out is that the NYPD, like a lot of U.S. police departments, are trained in doing racism by the IDF. And one of the ways you can tell that they're trained by the IDF is if you remember back in 2020, there were these scenes in various U.S. cities of protesters advancing on police stations, and the cops would just run away. Like, everyone for themselves. Not an orderly retreat, nothing like that. Just fucking scrambling. And that is the signature IDF move.
That's the old Zohar Mamdani.
Like, who... I mean, who is he saying is claiming this? I mean, he has not actually produced a single video where he disavows any of this, and why on earth should he? All of these are totally... Well, every one of these positions is better than, like, the best position that fucking Ben Shapiro ever espoused. And don't ask me, I don't know what the best position he ever espoused was. I don't think, but it probably wasn't very good. He is trying to outrage bait with just such basic shit that... Well, I mean, but then again, that's the job. They outrage bait with stuff that no normal person would be outraged over.
we have to make clear that when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF.
Yeah, that's not. He's not saying that they're the same thing. Thank you for refuting yourself there. I like it when Ben Shapiro debunks himself in real time.
We are in a country where those connections abound, especially in New York City. You have so many opportunities to make clear the ways in which that struggle over there is tied to capital's interest over here.
So, like, the old Zoran Mamdani was like an anti-Semite, right? Who?
I mean, you haven't shown us any evidence of that. And since when do you care about anti-Semitism, Ben? Oh, that's right. Ben suddenly just noticed that he's surrounded himself with a lot of people who don't think highly of Jews, and he's kind of uncomfortable about that. It's that classic moment, that classic Ralph Wiggum moment, where a pick-me realizes what he's gotten picked for.
Who had just
I'm in danger.
Policies of the NYPD to the IDF somehow, and then blame the Jews for NYPD policies.
And I mean, he didn't do that. He just pointed out the IDF trains them.
The new Zoran Mamdani, by contrast, is also a radical anti-Semite.
So what's the point? Okay, so if you're saying that he just has all these same positions, that he's not actually, then why are you pretending, like, what do you mean the old and the new? I mean, did he think about this bit at all before he came up with it? Because it's like, first of all, he says, actually, his stuff isn't from all that long ago. Like, it's literally from a couple of months ago, a lot of it. And then he says that's supposedly the old Mamdani, but there's also the new Mamdani, except, like, literally none of these things are things he's actually disavowed. Because why would you? Because they're just what any decent person and any reasonably well-informed person is aware of.
Who, during this campaign, literally said they globalized the Intifada, which is a call for violence. Intifada
No, it
is a
isn't.
violence uprising. And to
No, it isn't.
It
can be. It includes that, but it includes lots of things.
To extend, that uprising globally. That's literally what it means. He says it actually just means equality and struggle.
Well, yes, that's the goal of it.
As one would, if one, was not fond of Jews.
That was a very neat non sequitur there.
I know people for whom those things mean very different things. And to me, ultimately, what I hear...
this is the Bulwark. These are the neocons we were watching yesterday.
In so many is a desperate desire for equality and equal rights in standing up for Palestinian human rights. And I think what's difficult also is that the very word has been used by the Holocaust Museum when translating the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising.
Yeah, I mean, because it is just the word for uprising. Any historical uprising would be called an intifada.
Into Arabic, because it's a word that means struggle.
The wild thing about this is then, in order to avoid connecting the Nazi Holocaust to the ongoing genocide in Palestine, they then decided that they would actually change their Arabic translation of Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. They deliberately mistranslated Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. They changed it to El Muqawama fil Ghetto Warsawa, I believe. And the word Muqawama means resistance, not uprising. But they didn't want to use the word uprising because the word uprising is intifada. But the thing is, they're still, using it as the heading for something that is just about the uprising, even though obviously the subject of resistance to the Warsaw Ghetto is much broader. Like, the Holocaust Museum literally changed this and falsified history in Arabic in order to avoid using the standard term that just happens to draw these connections.
And as a Muslim man who grew up post 9/11, I'm all too familiar in the way in which Arabic words can be twisted, can be distorted, can be used to justify any kind of meaning.
He was the real victim. Now he's going to tell us jihad is actually just a peaceful inner quest, which is...
Well, I mean, Yeah, actually, the term means a lot of things, and a personal struggle is indeed one of them.
Very exciting.
I mean, God, I mean, that's so wild, because Ben Shapiro, I mean, he's just reading his mind here. Look at this. Zoran Mamdani, he said some accurate things just now. I bet he's going to say some more accurate things. That would be really bad.
In case you weren't really clear on this, also,
his fucking shitty new book is out of focus.
Zoran Mamdani refuses to say that Hamas should disarm. So just in case you were...
Well, why would they? Why the fuck would they?
Unclear on whether he is warm toward terrorism. The answer is yes. He most definitely is.
So what is your response to what Hamas is doing now?
I think those are bodies and remains that should absolutely be returned, and I think that I have no issue with critiquing Hamas or the Israeli government, because my critiques all come from a place of universal human rights. And my focus, however, is right here in New York City and transforming the most expensive city in America into one that's affordable for each and every New Yorker.
But, okay. And I want to get to that.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. That's why you're trying to talk about literally anything but.
Absolutely. But do you believe that Hamas should lay down their weapons and leave the leadership in Gaza?
I mean, those are two separate things. Like, literally, Hamas have said for months now they're willing to transfer the leadership in Gaza to an agreed a committee of technocrats agreed upon amongst the Palestinian factions. They've said that all along. In fact, senior Hamas people have been saying for a while that maybe getting into electoral politics was a mistake, which I tend to agree with. I mean, I'm not saying in their specific case, I'm just saying in general, I think it's a fucking mistake. But laying down their weapons and thus leaving the Palestinians completely defenseless, leaving them without the one line of defense that they actually have within Gaza, so that they can just be slaughtered, I mean, that would just be treason, really. And not surprisingly, they have always refused, and they've been very, very explicit. They've said, our weapons are going to be the arsenal of the national army of a future Palestinian state. We have no right to give them up.
I believe that any future here in New York City is one that we have to make sure that's affordable for all, and as it pertains to Israel and Palestine, that we have to ensure that there is peace, and that is the future that we have to fight for.
But you won't say that Hamas should lay down their arms and give up leadership in Gaza.
I don't really have opinions about the future of Hamas and Israel beyond the question of justice and safety, and the fact that anything has to abide by international law. And that applies to Hamas, that applies to the Israeli military, applies to anyone you could ask me about.
Oh, wow, he has no opinions. I mean, he shot...
I mean, he does. He said what his opinion was.
He has no opinions, but he found an opinion about, like, arresting Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Well, yeah, and that would be covered by the doing things in accordance with international law. There's a warrant out for him.
That he has very strong opinions about. Getting the terrorist group to disarm, he has no opinions about. It's very far away, you see. And if you believe that, then also he certainly eats rice with his hands on, like, a daily basis.
Well, that is such an amazing gag he came up with there, that he had to do a callback.
Here he was in that same interview, saying the sitting Prime Minister of Israel should be arrested, and also he has no opinions about whether Hamas should disarm.
You have said that you would arrest Netanyahu if he came to the United States. You've been very outspoken in your criticism of him. Do you stand by that? You would arrest him if he came here, if you were mayor?
I've said that this is a city that believes in international law, and this is a city that wants to uplift and uphold those beliefs. The Prime Minister...
The United States doesn't stand by the International Criminal Court.
It hasn't...
Well, yeah, I know, because the U.S. is a fucking rogue genocidal regime that kind of needs to be put down.
On the treaty for the International Criminal Court. The International Criminal Court, however, has issued a warrant for the arrest of Benjamin Netanyahu.
But what grounds in the United States could you arrest him on?
As it has
for genocide.
Or Vladimir Putin. I've said that I believe that we should uphold arrest warrants by the International Criminal Court, and that you should do so only in abiding with all of the laws in front of us. I'm not going to make a new law to ensure that we can actually do this.
Do you think that Commissioner Tisch would allow you to arrest Netanyahu?
Well, this is really interesting, because the idea here is that the police, I mean, notice the police, she's saying, with the police commissioner who is subject to the orders of the mayor and the city council, allow his superior, the mayor of New York, to call for the execution of a valid arrest warrant. I mean, it's very interesting. Occasionally, that's a very mask-off comment because it just kind of admits that actually the cops are a law unto themselves.
In New York City?
I've appreciated Commissioner Tish's leadership of the NYPD, and I think that she's done a good job.
I mean, that's the okay, finally, we've got a shitty thing that that Mamdani said. Like, finally, Ben Shapiro delivers. This is a bad take. The NYPD have been just fucking wilding.
Lowering crime across the city.
We will get to his feelings about the police in a moment, but
I mean, we already, what you just showed was pretty damning, actually.
Suffice it to say, I don't believe him there either. So, just to get the record straight, we're supposed to believe he underwent an evolution in the course of the last...
Like, he keeps on saying we're supposed to believe, and yet he's not actually provided any evidence of anyone claiming this.
2.7 milliseconds. From, you know, thinking the real victims of 9/11 were family members...
You know, that is such an outrageous thing for Mamdani to say, and I'm sure we're going to get an actual, like, clip of him saying it. Not all the clips that he's shown. He's shown us clips of him not saying that. But clearly, I mean, Ben Shapiro wouldn't lie to us. He must have a clip of him actually saying that thing, and he's just chosen not to show it.
Of his Muslims who people treated poorly, supposedly. To now, he's probably fine on that issue.
Oh, what do you mean? Well, like, he wasn't bad on that issue to begin with.
Or you know, he used to support radical Islamic jihadism, but now...
I mean, there's no evidence that he actually ever did. I mean, because he doesn't think that Muslim charity board members should be locked up on bullshit charges. That's what he means.
He only kind of does support radical Islamic jihadism. Already coming up, Zohran Mamdani. You know, he used to be really anti-police, but now he loves the well, that's not true either. He really still doesn't really like the police first.
I mean, he does actually sound really shitty on that.
A recent Danish study found something deeply concerning. Just 1 year after an abortion, women were 50% more likely to need psychiatric treatment.
No, that's not what the fucking study said. Oh, this is part of a fucking sponsorship.
Which for many people in this country, especially black people, are not offered the same opportunity.
Are you for defunding the police? Are you for serious reform that people can see on the ground?
I am in favor of defunding the police.
So that was...
I mean, that is a much better position.
Like, not all that long ago. Now he says that, you know, he's going to apologize to the NYPD. So
where have you got him saying that? Because that's like the most damning thing yet.
News Zohran Mamdani apologizes to the NYPD.
Where's he done that? Like, why can't you show that? Like, why?
Here he is now.
Oh.
You said in the past, I almost don't need to go through it, it's been said many times, but that you called the police force racist.
I mean, they are.
Said they were a major threat.
They are.
Public safety, called them wicked and corrupt.
They are. They are all those things.
I report that you apologized to 24 members of the NYPD. What did you say to them?
I apologized for the language that I used, and I spoke to them about the fact that I want to work with them.
Okay, yeah, this is fucked up. This is absolutely fucked up.
Deliver public safety, because
I mean, the thing is that doing something like this immediately calls into question whether he was serious about anything.
Being in the city,
but I would also note that, I mean, again, the thing is, we are probably, to a great extent, these police forces are a law unto themselves. They really do not necessarily have all that much time for the elected government. In fact, the fucking NYPD was outright meddling in this mayoral election in New York. Oh, I didn't see that. I had heard something to that effect, but I had not actually seen him say anything in particular. But, like, what he's saying here sucks. Like, I mean, the language he used is just correct. It is one of the most corrupt forces in the country. It's extremely racist. They are a threat. I mean, like, they fucking pointed guns and actually, in one case, fired guns at the fucking Palestine anti-genocide encampments at Columbia University. We're gonna just pretend that they didn't? Yeah, I mean, this is actually fucked up. Like,
is we're asking officers to do nearly everything we can think of. We used to ask officers to focus on serious crimes. Now we're asking...
which, it's worth noting, the police's own figures on this show that that is not what they've ever focused on. Like, I mean, their own fucking statistics show that they spend 6% of their time, on average, on what they call violent crime. Like, literally, the thing that they are always presented as being focused on in propaganda is a thing they spend 6% of their time on.
To focus also on the mental health crisis, to focus also on homelessness. In 1 year alone...
To focus on homelessness. I mean, I believe you mean to focus on doing violence against homeless people.
The NYPD receives 200,000 mental health calls.
Police officers that I spoke to, they don't want a behind closed doors apology. They want a broad public apology.
Well, fuck them.
For the things that you suggested about them.
Well, I mean, what he said is true, though.
Absolutely, I'll apologize to police officers right here, because this is the apology that I've
I mean, because this is for the fucking station most of them watch.
Sharing with many rank and file officers, and I apologize because of the fact that I'm looking to work with these officers, and I know that these officers, these men and women who serve in the NYPD, they put their lives on the line.
And no, they fucking don't. I mean, like, you actually, again, look at their own figures on the number of actual officers killed in the line of duty, and they are it's overwhelmingly fucking accidents. Like, their own accident, like, accidental firearm discharge is a big one. There's a fair bit of, like, cop-on-cop shit in there. And then there are cases where they find a way to make a clearly just natural causes death seem service-connected so that they can get the pension.
You know, I totally believe him. I totally believe him now that he apologized.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pathetic. But it is time for me to wrap up for tonight. Thank you for everyone who joined in. It's always great to see you. I hope you enjoyed the stream. And I will be back on Friday at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time to resume